Hi, good morning, everyone. Like Nate said, I probably have a background that's a little different than a lot of the folks here today. Definitely not a health practitioner in any way, but I have landed more in the nonprofit space, specifically trying to focus on how innovation, user experience, and technology can be moving our work forward with UNICEF Ventures to be teaching kids specifically and advocate for the work that UNICEF is doing and hopefully be creating the next generation of global citizens. And the project that we're doing that with right now is one that I am very excited to talk to you about today, and that is UNICEF Kid Power. So to start, it might be a little curious to hear someone who is from the U.S. Fund for UNICEF being here. That, after all, is the fundraising arm of UNICEF in the United States. Definitely focusing not so much on programmatic elements, but more on spreading the word and getting generous support that can make them happen. But about a year and a half ago, we were looking at some interesting binary statistics that you see here, and that is 1 in 4 American kids are inactive. And of course, UNICEF's focus is on the fact that 1 in 4 kids worldwide is also malnourished. And this just seemed like a perfect opportunity to trying to be doing something to hopefully solve both problems, and in that, hopefully for the first time, also having UNICEF touching on kids in the United States that unfortunately are looking to need some of the same support that their vulnerable children worldwide are needing. So with this stat, we came up with a concept called UNICEF Kid Power. And this, in basic, is how it works. Kid Power bands. I'm wearing one right here. Can't say too much about it, unfortunately, but hopefully very soon you will all also be wearing one or having kids in your family wearing one. But this is the world's first Wearable-For-Good. It measures activity. That activity is converted into points, a very friendly currency for kids to understand. And then generous funders help those points become packets of therapeutic food, which are given to the 16 million children worldwide who suffer from severe acute malnourishment. Some of you may have heard of Plumpy Nut, I'm sure. High protein paste, high vitamin protein paste that can literally take kids on the verge of death at a young age and revert the effects of malnourishment in the first 2 years of life that could lead to stunting later on. So we're talking about 150 packets of this stuff, which is only 41 cents a packet, really being the meaning of life or death for some kids in the world. And so kids have this technology, they're syncing with the app to track their progress, and they're immediately connecting with their success. They are knowing that the more active they get, the more lives they save. I am terrible at explaining this compared to some of the kids who have done this. So I'm going to shamelessly try to wake you up this morning by having kids tell you what it means to be part of Kid Power in their own words.
Kid Power, to me, I think it's all about saving kids' lives. We have lots of food, but like if you go to another country where it doesn't have as much food as we do.
Once they've had those conversations with teachers about what it means to be malnourished and what it means to be in a position to help children who are malnourished, I think the motivation came from knowing that their work was going to make a difference.
Can you show me what's on your wrist?
A Kid Power band. A kid's tracker. When you exercise, the more points you get, the more money you get. You save lives. Once you reach Kid Power, that's a food packet that you give. I feel like we're being like better people than we ever have been. Because it's really nice to just know that you're saving kids' life every move you make.
Our favorite part about UNICEF Kid Power is that we're running a lot, getting a lot of exercise. I also like another introduction to technology and classroom.
Bringing in an organization like UNICEF helps them put pieces together, understanding how the world works. So students get a social science lesson, an English lesson, automatically just by having us participate in this program. The other part about it is that our PQ has had a really good time with running our kids, making sure they're more active, and setting goals with the steps.
I do jumping jacks and I run around and I play with my friends. I'm having fun, I get active and I stay alive.
I think it's really important for kids at a young age to be healthy, understand healthy lifestyle, but also understand service and giving back. For them to be able to contribute is a big deal for Sacramento. I'm very proud of our children.
So those were some kids who got active as part of our first citywide pilot in Sacramento, actually just this time last year. And next, to get into a little bit about this, the world's first Wearable-For-Good, and what exactly makes it, that's a good example of why it is we think that this can hopefully crack the wearable code. Right now, I don't know, this might be a room of people who are better at adopting things like Fitbits, just because you are so used to the technology and how it can be helpful around the world. But the average person, when it comes to the quantified self movement and a lot of the technology that helps make it possible, they don't make it beyond 3 months. It's not necessarily a habit that they develop. And when it comes to kids, that's kind of the same thing. So with this world's first Wearable-For-Good, we've got a couple strategies that we're hoping will really make it stick, so that we're making an impact regularly on the health of kids here in the United States as well as around the world. And one of those things is our business model. You just saw some kids there that have gotten active as part of our school program. What we're doing in the next couple of weeks that I can't say too much about, but we are also launching a similar opportunity for families where everyone can be doing this with their children at home, while also continuing our school program, which is fully philanthropically funded, so that we make sure we are reaching the most underserved kids here in the United States, the ones that are probably most suffering from that 1 in 4 statistic that I told you about at the beginning. And there's a couple other reasons we think that this will hopefully crack the code as to why this will become a habit beyond 3 months. The first one is obvious: you're saving lives. You're not doing that with your Fitbit. You're not doing that with your Jawbone. As much as they might try with other partnerships that they've done from United States-based nonprofits like Feed America, this is the only wearable device where with literally every step you take, you're having an impact, not for some sort of limited time engagement. We also understand what needs to go into keeping kids' attention. We know what we are at the U.S. Fund for UNICEF, and that is, at the end of the day, an organization that is trying to educate kids. So we're not trying to compete with the people that we cannot compete with. We're creating something completely new. We're not a circus, we're not completely entertainment, we're Cirque du Soleil. And we're trying to create edutainment. We know we'll never compete with Angry Birds or anything that, Disney is putting out there that kids think is completely fun. Nor do we want to, because nor would it be in our best interest to be increasing the amount of screen time that our kids have. But instead, we're finding that balance between educational, entertaining information that can really inspire real-world action for kids and give them a really tangible way to be giving back. And we do this with stealth motivation. And this is really what we think will set us apart from even other kids' wearables that have failed to have long-time engagement. This is some positioning, and this is how you will see us framing to kids what's going on when they wear their Kid Power band. We're giving them the power to save lives. They're getting active with the UNICEF Kid Power band. They're earning points, and they're unlocking packets of food for children around the world. So we're not wagging a finger at them. We're not telling them to get off the couch. We're not telling them to stop playing video games. But kids intrinsically want to help their peers. So if you tell a kid that they're saving kids' lives, they're going to do that themselves. They're going to get off the couch themselves, and you don't have to have that scolding that usually goes on to try to get kids to develop these healthy behaviors. We also do that with creating framing around the UNICEF Kid Power team, especially when we're going into elementary school settings. As I'm sure a lot of you realize that the work that you do, it can be hard to communicate to young children. But it's important to communicate to young children. We want them to be developing empathy at a young age, and at the same time, not be being off-put, not suffering from some of that stigma from their peers that are suffering around the world in a way that they in the developed world really cannot comprehend. And so the UNICEF Kid Power team helps us do that. We're telling kids that they're joining a team of people around the world that are ending malnutrition. You can be on that team if you are a UNICEF field worker that's helping to deliver RUTF. You can be on that team if you are a kid here that's wearing a Kid Power band, if your parents are wearing a Kid Power band. Everyone's on this team with the goal to save lives. And so it's not a matter of singling any one kid out, not making them feel responsible, and hopefully not having them feel negatively responsible in any way when we're dealing with some heavy subjects with them. So next, hardware. This is where I turn into a bit of a snake oil salesman, because I think there are a lot of people in this room that knows a lot more about this than I do. I'm much more on the user experience side. But I did want to let you know a little bit about this UNICEF Kid Power band itself and how we think we've developed a technology that does work specifically for kids. It's completely child friendly. It's part pedometer, part accelerometer. So that it's really capturing the best of kids' activity. It'll have their steps, but it'll have also the flailing crazy arms that you see happening during kids' days all the time, especially in the classroom. And you know, to accomplish this, we went direct to manufacturer, which was a first and certainly kind of unprecedented for a nonprofit fundraising organization to be working directly with manufacturers in China to be developing a product. And I'll get into that a little bit later, but it really did allow for us to come up with something that works and kind of was better than what was already out there for kids. And that includes not having GPS. We don't want to have any of the stigmas that come with some of the nerves that parents can have when their kids are getting involved with technology. It's USB charge. It's Bluetooth sync so that we can create fun companion app experiences and be keeping up in real time with the progress kids are making to save lives. And what's gotten a lot of practitioners really excited is that in doing this, we anticipate that especially by the end of this year, we'll have the largest known data set on kids' activity. The Kid Power Band measures activity in 15-minute increments. So for the first time, we're really getting into an understanding of kids' habits when it comes to physical activity, when they're doing it, identifying when they need to doing it, seeing exactly which motivators work, and really hoping to contribute to the quantified self movement in a way that minors haven't been able to do before, because we've come up with a way to be collecting all of this anonymized data. So that's something we're really excited about and hope to connect with folks that are eager to be using that data in a meaningful way. So in order to actually get to that data, though, we knew we had to create a user experience that worked. And it's an experience that has to work in all of those settings that I was describing. It's got to work for a teacher in a classroom who is in an underserved school with an underserved population, is doing the best she can and doesn't really have a lot of extra time. And we also want it to work now for parents and children so that this is something they'll embrace, and when you're a parent not doing it philanthropically funded, something that you'll pay for. Like I said, we are a fundraising nonprofit. This was a complete new experience for us, and while I will talk a bit more about our process later, what we really wanted to do was make sure we were tapping into as much expertise as possible and getting as much information as we could to make sure that we were creating a product for the first time that would actually work. And so we feel that we've done our due diligence in that way. Firstly, we've been doing this in schools. As of March 2015, we've had over 11,000 kids wearing the Kid Power Band, getting active, and certainly not being shy about telling us what they thought about the experience. We also have done a formal program evaluation. We've done some lo-fi early user testing of the product that we're about to release. And more importantly, we know when to reach out to the experts that we might not have in-house. And we really definitely did that with user experience. In particular, we were able to connect with some of those who have been taught by one of my favorite folks in the behavior economics field, Dr. BJ Fogg. Simplicity Labs is a new organization run by David Myo, and he is the very first behavior design major to come out of Stanford University. And so by reaching out and doing our due diligence, we found the problems we needed to solve in order to make Kid Power something that sticks for families and schools. So our main insights were that kids need to feel significant, they need to feel important, because they are important, and they want to be connected. They want to feel like they belong. So often kids don't feel empowered because we are not turning to them to help give the solution to problems. Frankly, when it comes to malnutrition around the world, Adults haven't solved the problem. There are still 50 million kids worldwide that are malnourished, and like I said, 16 million of those severely malnourished. So why not tap into this group that wants to help and give them the power to do so? Parents also, they were very turned on to the idea of their children learning about the value of helping others. They want their kids to be globally aware, especially because the reality is we're turning into much more of a global society, and they know that that's going to be important for their kids growing up. From more of a user experience standpoint, we have definite behaviors that we want people to be tapping into so that we can break that cycle of 3 months kind of being the cap for when people are used to wearing wearables and developing those healthy habits. So we want to be setting users up for success. We want to be designing for those core behaviors that we want people to do. And transparency. We're all on this UNICEF Kid Power team, and what we learned is that parents and kids alike, they want to know exactly the impact they're having. I've had to explain to many upset children in the school experience as to why I could not make them pen pals or have them Skype with the kids that were literally getting the packets of foods that they're earning. So these kids are really no different than some of the major donors that we have at UNICEF. So in developing this, we knew that we had to, take the time out and make sure everyone knew, hey, this is what you have accomplished. And so here's a few ways where we think we've done that. One is easy to grasp impact. If we were going to tackle malnutrition, one of the reasons working to have kids fund ready-to-use therapeutic food is because it is tangible. There are these little packets, and the points that they're earning directly correlate to the packets. So it's nothing abstract that we're trying to get kids to grasp. It's not just, yay, now kids aren't malnourished. No, they know I have helped deliver X packets, and I know that it takes 150 packets to save a kid's life. And so that kid is very aware in a tangible way of the impact that they have had. So now all have to do is crack that code for the multi-million-dollar donors so they can feel that same sense of accomplishment and help us bring us off the ground. And so when it comes to the companion app experience that we're developing, these are a few preview slides, not quite on message, but we're getting there in terms of what they'll look like. We knew we wanted to create an experience that people will want to be interacting with every day. We are a fundraising organization, and our job is to make sure that people know about UNICEF, know about it in a meaningful way, and by touching kids, we are hopefully developing the next generation of UNICEF supporters. We've been doing Trick or Treat for UNICEF for 65 years, and so many of our donors now say, yeah, it all started when I trick-or-treated 50 years ago. So we want kids to say it all started when I Kid Powered 50 years ago. So that is our goal. And we do that by giving kids the accountability that they want and by letting them know it's easy. In setup here, one thing that we do is as soon as kids are registering their band, their first step is to go run, get active, get a couple steps, and sync right away. And so that way we're creating that connection that they're having impact with just steps. Hopefully they'll develop that habit of syncing every day. You can follow team members. We want to create accountability. We want kids to see how their peers were doing. It's funny, in the classroom programs that we've done so far, we've done it in 3 cities, and we tried to create this citywide experience, and we'd visit classrooms and say, New York is in the lead, Boston is in the lead, isn't that awesome, kids? And they'd say, yeah, I don't care, how is Mr. Smith's classroom doing down the hall, because we want to beat their butt. So in this experience that we're making for families, we've tried to localize it a little more so that kids can be encouraging to their peers, but also know when they have to step it up a little bit. Next is syncing. We want every sync to be a rewarding experience, and we want kids to be constantly aware of that impact they're having, since we have created this system where they are very aware of how many packets they're earning. So when you sync, you are being complimented, but you're being complimented in a substantial way because it's for doing excellent work. And we've also worked in digital rewards because while we're not trying to encourage screen time, we're hoping just 5 minutes a day, we do know that this is something that gets kids excited. And so the basic structure of our app that we're building for this family experience is framed as a passport. We want kids to feel like they are visiting the world and they are meeting the kids and the communities that they are helping. And so we're also accomplishing that with a mission structure, is what we're calling it. Where you can just wear your band, you can just be syncing on a regular basis and earning packets, and isn't that great? But no, what if you were on a mission? What if you knew that your mission was to be earning 50 points in the next 10 days and unlocking 5 packets and feeling very empowered to do that and knowing that you were going to get special rewards for that mission? And so in doing that, we are making parents happy. They know their kids are not just helping people around the world, but they're getting a global education. And we know that we're working the empathy into this experience that kids need, especially, unfortunately, with current events. All we hear in the United States is talking about the importance of giving kids that empathy when they're young, so they're growing up and respecting their peers and understanding the need to help the world. And so by having them see that the kids that are in these communities that are impacted by malnourishment are just like them, we're hoping to realize that early on, and we're removing some of that stigma. And so hopefully the result of our due diligence in all of the user experience work is that we have empowered kids. This is Joseph. He is a student in Richmond Hill, Queens. You can't make this stuff up. The Kid Power band, every time you get a point, it vibrates. And we asked him what it feels like. And he says when his band vibrates, he feels like a superhero. And so with this band, even if they're not interacting with the app on a regular basis, it's constantly on their wrist. It's constantly reminding them of what their daily goal is. It's constantly reminding them that they have a mission to accomplish and they should be doing it. And they are. So to get a little bit into why it is that I'm here from a fundraising nonprofit that is taking on this new project and that is actually bringing a wearable product to market, I thought I'd touch a little bit on what that process has been like. And I know a lot of the ways that we're working, which is very agilely, is not something that's unfamiliar to everyone in this room. But hearing a little bit of the talk about the breakout sessions, about how you're trying to find ways to bridge practitioners with the humanitarian organizations, I think it's time to find ways too to bridge with the fundraising organizations like the US Fund for UNICEF, who are ready to innovate, who are embracing technology, and who want to be doing work beyond just their normal fundraising events. And that's taking a lot of partnerships, a lot of joint ventures with those that are developing technology in the world. And so while a lot of this might not be unfamiliar to you, hopefully it's some advice where it might ring a bell and find a way that you could be working with not just humanitarian organizations, but fundraising organizations to expand your work and make it possible. So the innovation imperative that is out there for tech companies is something that a lot of nonprofit organizations are actually embracing as well. We're at a point where there's so much digital tools at our fingertips where we're realizing that even though we're a nonprofit, we're not a tech company, we need to be doing something or else we're going to miss the future. And this was an argument that really helped me in UNICEF Ventures get the entire US Fund for UNICEF on board with doing something that on paper might sound a little off mission for a fundraising organization. So in past years, the US Fund for UNICEF has come up with their own strategic direction, which probably doesn't sound that off from what a tech company would have, looking to stay ahead of the digital curve, looking to drive growth. The most challenging part, though, is when we're doing this, when we are bringing a wearable product to market, we have to do more with less. We cannot justify the budgets that normal companies would have when they're bringing a product to market. We're very proud of our ratio where 92 cents of every dollar earned goes directly to UNICEF in the field. And so I will not harrow you with tales of what it's like for me to do more with less, but I will let you know a little bit of how we've made that work so you can hopefully make it work with fundraising partners as well. So the challenge that we have faced particularly is trying to get our colleagues that are very much important in the US Fund for UNICEF to think like a tech company, to think like my little department is working, because if we don't, it's not going to work. And so if you were going to pursue a partnership with a fundraising organization, to me, I think these are the three most important questions that you should help answer for them to get them on board. It's important that we're adopting a decision-centric and task-driven model, not meeting-centric and not consensus-driven culture. I am somewhere where people love meetings, where my calendar is filled for 8 hours and no real work gets done until late at night, which I'm sure a lot of people can relate with. But we're trying to bring a tech product to market, and that doesn't work. We have to be iterating quickly to keep up with it. And so what we've tried to do is get people on board with very quick decisions, but obviously very informed decisions. Scrum methodology, agile development. This is something that we have introduced to our fundraising organization, which has been a challenge. Everyone's used to working groups, everyone's used to having their say. And so this idea that you're going to be defining your work in 30-day sprints And this idea that if you don't accomplish that in that 30-day sprint, it's out the door, has been something that's pretty crazy. Normally with programs that we run as a nonprofit, it will take years of planning before it even launches, before you go from idea to product. But we can't afford to do that in the wearable space, where in just the past year and a half, things have been changing so rapidly and we want to be competitive. So we're proud actually that Sprint Scrum has somewhat worked and allowed us to have 4 different product launches between the school program and pilots in the past year and a half. But with doing all of that, we realized that we need to balance our risk. We're working quickly and we're doing so in a space where we don't necessarily have all of the experts in-house. So sometimes some of those other departments that aren't as used to being as Scrum driven as we are can be a nice balance for us, and realize that we are still accountable to our board members, we're accountable to our donors, and we don't want to be going too hog wild. Absolutely. So agile development is what drives a lot of software development. And so if you're working agilely, sometimes that is done in the Sprint Scrum methodology. So what that is you have a core Sprint team. You have a few representative members of your team, and they're informed to make decisions on behalf of their team. So you avoid this idea of a huge committee of people that's all together with very valuable opinions, and you narrow it down to just a few who can get together once every 30 days and say, here's what we're going to accomplish in those 30 days. And that's your sprint. And then you go off and accomplish it. And every week you will check in, you'll have a scrum, and that scrum, again, the goal is for not to turn into a huge meeting where everyone's sharing their opinions, but you get together very quickly and say, I'm all good, or you get together very quickly and say, I have an obstacle, and here's what we need to fix. And that way you are able to focus on your work, you are able to get more done just kind of with that hanging deadline over your head of how important it is in this 30 days. And things don't seem so insurmountable when you're dividing it into those 30-day chunks. It's not like you're looking at a whole year calendar at a time. You feel very empowered and you get things done. And I recommend it. And so these are some management strategies that we've had to introduce to our nonprofit organization that I'm sure are familiar with you guys, and would definitely recommend you also try to introduce if you do try to move to additional humanitarian organizations or to work with a fundraising organization. You know, Google's motto, small team solving big problems, same idea. You know, everyone's smart, but you need kind of that breakout small team to really be driving strategy. Facebook, move fast and break things. You're going to make mistakes. We've made tons of them. I'm not telling them to you because I want to look good here today, but believe me, we've made them. And Zappos, working in a holacracy. What's also really empowering about a Sprint team is that everyone's empowered. There's no head, there's no president, there's no CEO. Everyone's equally important, and they are able to contribute. And not only does that create a sense of importance, but it empowers people to be making decisions and working quickly like it's necessary to do when we are trying to iterate very quickly. And so this is what's boiled down to our approach to make those ideas work in a nonprofit setting, specifically for UNICEF Ventures, which is my department within the U.S. Fund for UNICEF. We were formed 5 years ago. I've been there for 2 years. And our task is to really hopefully be bringing innovation to this nonprofit fundraising space. We're supposed to be forming new business collaborations and bringing in new ideas to spread the word about the work UNICEF does. We do that with new insights. So like I said, we definitely don't have the expertise in-house yet, unless our team grows, but we are not afraid to ask questions. We are thrilled to have so many colleagues that think this is a great idea and have been able to form kind of like a little advisory group that we can go to with quick questions and guide decisions. And this is something I recommend. If you're doing something cool and you can limit the ask of people, they'll want to help out. So for this advisory board, we just say, hey, you know, maybe you can have a half-an-hour call with us every 2 months and just tell us if we're crazy or tell us if we're doing something right. And that's really worked. So we've worked with Michael Levine. He is the CEO of the Joan Gans Cooney Center with the Children's Television Network. So he's really helped us with kind of how to bring gaming to this space. Dr. Deborah Lieberman from the University of California, San Diego. She's helped lead in our program evaluations and really given us a sense of what exergaming is and how we can be using that in the right way. Chris Gifford, he is the creator of Dora the Explorer. He has captivated kids' hearts and minds, so he's helping us do the same. The second, existing assets. We are a nonprofit that fundraises, but we do have some things in-house that could contribute, so we didn't need to start from scratch. We have an entire Teach UNICEF department, and they've given us the resources they need. Joint ventures. We ask the people to come on board if we don't have the expertise. So we have partners that are working on the app development and engineering. We have industrial design partners that have helped us make this Kid Power band. We have user experience experts that have come on board and told us how this should work. And finally, agile development. Like I said, we've got to be doing that all in sprints and scrums, or we are going to miss the boat. Just a quick shout out to all of the collaborators. I won't waste time going through it, but I just felt like I couldn't come here today and make it sound like I was not the one bringing this all to life. This is kind of a look at that team that I talked about, where we're eager to reach out to outside experts so that we can make this happen. And happy to talk after with any of you about this fantastic team so I don't go too over in time. And finally, I can't get up here without telling you what this all has done. We've had 1,259 severely malnourished kids' lives saved because of Kid Power so far, and we are not done yet. Our school program is going to reach 70,000 kids this spring in 13 different cities. And these kids so far, they've walked around the earth 23 times. So that to me says we're doing our job. We're getting kids active and we're saving lives. This is a shameless plug that I wish could be more of a plug, but I implore you all, if you thought any of this was interesting, please go to our website this Tuesday, October 13th. We have a hugely exciting announcement from some partners that would put duct tape on my mouth if I knew I was even saying this. But we really do hope you'll all check in if you find it interesting, because there you're going to find some ways as to how you could be bringing this to your family or bringing this to schools near you. And just because I know that my power up here is showing cute pictures of kids who have done Kid Power. This is a little girl from Boston who lives in a high-rise, low-income building. And her mom told her principal that normally she's on the 16th floor. She takes the elevator every day to get to school. But one morning she woke up with her Kid Power band on and said, "I'm leaving early. I got to take the stairs. I've got to feed the world." And so to me, it's hearing stories like that this stealth motivation is working. Kids want to get active, and kids really want to tap into this intrinsic desire to be helping their peers. And hopefully I can be here next year telling you how we have kids in countries around the world doing this too, because we really think that's where its growth can go. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jeanette, for that excellent time between connectivity, human energy, food, and many of the themes that GHT tries to inspire. If you'd stay up there, please, we'll have a couple minutes for questions while the panel is actually filtering out.
Great.
Yeah, I can run the mic. So,
are you deliberately implementing some of the TED Talk teachings of Cal Berkeley PhD recipient Jane McGonigal?
Deliberately?
Are you aware of?
I am, but I can't say it's deliberate. But
okay. You just agree with her.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
This would work equally well, and has been proven to work equally well with young adults and even beyond.
Yeah.
And in traffic situations, all sorts of things.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
So you you glossed over the point of sponsorship, and I wonder if you could dive deeper into that. You're probably familiar with the satire of people handing out a box of like symbols in the developing world for all the good that won't do. So there's got to be a step 2 in there somewhere that actually converts on the back end what amounts to activity that does not directly contribute to delivering food packets to something that does. So do you really have a direct model? Are you asking for sponsorship in like you would for a marathon, or is it all pretend?
Yeah, it is not pretend, and that gets to the point about transparency. I should have touched on it there a little more, but no, this conversion is real. Kids really need to get active, or these things are not going to be converted to packets of food, so the onus is really on them. When it comes to sponsorship, so far we've been lucky with our Kid Power Cities model. The U.S. Fund for UNICEF has regional offices in 8 cities, and when it comes to our local sponsors, we found that this really is something that they've gotten excited about, and we've been able to get people who have never donated to UNICEF before, because they're not necessarily interested in international causes, donate to us because of this domestic angle. So they get that credit in their own backyard. They know that they're helping kids here. And we've just really seen it take off, and that's the main reason why we are now bringing this to 12 cities next spring instead of the 3 that we had last year, because people want the chance to kind of being able to help at home and abroad. We do also have some very exciting corporate sponsors that, again, please go to our website on the 13th, that I'm not allowed to say, but they are the ones that are hugely making it possible. You've heard of all of them before, and they're very exciting. And then also, the U.S. Fund for UNICEF has national committees for UNICEF in countries, 30 other countries around the world, and they have loved the idea of this too. They agree that it's a great new fundraising model to be engaging sponsors, to be having an impact at home, having an impact abroad, and so we're trying to scale up internationally so that this can be something franchised out to them. And our goal is really to make it be a worldwide movement of kids helping kids. So we really hope that it's a sustainable track with that combination of corporate sponsors and also tapping into new local funders. We can keep the philanthropic side of this going. But it is going to be available for retail too, for families that can afford it, not necessarily those underserved kids we reach with our philanthropic funding. So between those two, we're hoping to find a track to sustainability.
Excellent. Let's thank Jeanette again, please.